So I've actually been asked more in an ironical way than, well, in a straight way. So I've been asked how would I actually shape the school system in such a way that it could actually benefit the people instead of just keeping it dumb and simple. Because being literate is a good thing in a society which, well, more or less would require a few to know something. But the point is, people who know something seem to not be taken into account that much, right? Now, if I were to imagine or, well, rearrange school, school should be done in such a way that it fits the child, okay? The child shouldn't fit themselves, right? To the machine that, school is. A sick machine, if you ask me, right? Because in order for a machine like a healthy society to work, you need to find specialized pieces, right? Not just any piece. Because in a sick society, everyone is to be fitted somewhere, even if they don't actually fully fit, right? It's like you want to drive a Ferrari, but you're not giving it the oils that it needs, or you're not giving it the pieces that it needs in case one of the original pieces breaks. If I were to reinvent school, I would make it inhibited or forbidden that anyone attends any such form of schooling until they are 9 years of age. Because first and foremost, the most important years for someone in their life are the first few years, because that's where they learn how to use their mirror neurons. They learn how to socialize. They learn how to create some social skills. And they have the time to play if they are not forced into school by corporatist parents or adults who are dumb enough to simply realize anything in their life, but still are even dumber to believe that children must do what they think. A special set of legislation has to also be established to prohibit such behaviors forever and ever, and also to make sure that children are removed from such abusive cases, right? They have to live away from these types of parents for a certain while, several years, and they have to go on with their life. They have to go to a family, well, who can literally take care of them and their needs, but at the same time be taught what they have experienced, be taught about how people will exploit and abuse them. Because if they come from an abusive family, they must be taught why that happens. It is the most important. Because if you don't answer the questions, you simply haven't realized anything. Once you teach the child, through psychologists, and especially psychiatrists, what are the types of people that have influenced them, and the fact that if they are to be sent back to their original parents, most likely they will be abused again, right? They have to know all these things. Because there will be an impulse based on their karma to simply want to go back to their family, even if it is damaging. But this effort from society has to be done. If their karma is to be abused because, let's say, their soul wants to learn what it is like to be abused, well, after a period, you can send them back to their family according to their own will, right? But if they get abused and they want to escape again, surely, why not help them? But again, there have to be some limits, because people will want to be saved but will still seek to impulsively join that idea of abuse. So there should be competent authorities that are capable to teach people how to transcend their abuse, right? Their impulses. That is why I'm saying there have to be a lot and a lot of structures that are highly stable, highly specialized. Now, for the first 9 years in a child's life, they should be fully free. They shouldn't be doing much. They shouldn't be caring much about the world. All they need to do is learn how to use their ideas, right? Learn how to be a child, how to play, right? And through this, as a parent, you should be knowledgeable enough to see what your child simply tends towards. Because we all come with a certain set of karma. This karma will dictate what our impulses are. And if they are destructive, the child and later on the human needs to be taught how to transcend those limitations, because that's what as a society we should do. People who have certain karma, it comes from previous lives. We don't care about that, right? We shouldn't care that much. Whatever that soul, let's say, has been through, well, it's been part of past lives. We are here to teach them how to transcend certain things. so that their future lives that they have will be probably much better, depending on what their soul will further seek. When it comes to these first 9 years, the parents, and probably any other authorities, should figure out what tendencies the child has, so that starting with the age of 9, there will be the first 3 years. These first 3 years, I said, these will have the core curricula, aka, let's say, the main language of your country. Separately, it could also be the language that the child's family is speaking, because they might speak a minority language. And if and only if the child wants to further dwell and dive into that language, why not give them the chance? And you shouldn't miss on some, well, literature regarding either of the languages, but especially the main language. Why not they're also secondary language? Let's say, why not mathematics? Because it is also the foundation of this whole world. And also, why not programming? Because we live in a world of technology. So basic knowledge on programming should be taught to literally everyone, right? And at that age, till the age of 12, they should still be highly receptive, right? Now, beyond these, there should be one or two, three, right? Other curricular, let's say, subjects, which the child can choose. I don't know, maybe they want to learn chess, or maybe they want to do sports more, maybe they want to do this or that, right? That should also be their choice, but those should only be kept until the age of 12 as optionals, right? If they don't want to attend those, okay. Following that, when they reach the, well, let's say their 12th year, right? When they are 12, they should start what I call the, well, let's say, the core schooling system, right? Or the professional development, as I would call it. This would last for 12 years, from the age of 12 to the age of 24, because by the age of 25, the mid-20s, is when the emotional component of the brain finalizes its development. Only then can you speak psychologically, psychiatrically, you can speak about people who finally can start to become emotionally mature. That is why youngsters are much harder to, let's say, control, but control or keep account for, because when they are at that age, right, you have to take into account that there will be puberty, right? There will be a period in which their sexuality is much more important than the perception of the world. So if you keep forcing them to learn things beyond certain things and neglecting certain urges of their body, well, you're gonna have some crazy individuals. And look how society is looking nowadays, right? People have to be taught that their body has needs, there are aspects and, well, specifics to our physiognomy, to our physiology, and that each of these slowly and surely have to be taught to the children, right? From the age of 12 to 24, the child should, by now, through their parents, through social games, and through activities that their parents can arrange, the child most likely should know by now a sense of what they want to follow in life. So the next 12 years would again continue with the core schooling system, right? The basic language, as well as their chosen second language, mathematics, and, well, we could leave programming aside, because if the child by then says, well, I don't like programming, okay, at least they know some basics. But the point is, from now on, from the age of 12 to 24, there should be a procedural or a progressive, let's say, diving into a future passion, right? Maybe they want to learn, I don't know, several languages, right? You need many, many years to learn some languages, and you can learn, how to speak with other people. School should also arrange, not only teachers to teach them, right? Should arrange, at least online experience exchanges, right? Where they get to speak and socialize with students from other languages, right? You want to learn German, okay. How about us, the school, allow you to speak online, if not possible otherwise, with people who actually speak the language? Because the language that you learn from a book may very well be dead, or simply may be very well behind. So many people learn languages like English in my country, but if you go to England, you're kind of gonna starve because they speak English in a different way. You don't learn their accents, you don't learn new expressions that they actually use. You just learn the language from a book, books that can be quite pretty old because you're taught some language structure, some vocabulary and aspects, but you're gonna miss on a lot of things which are, the actual ones. So you'll need, for whatever language, you'll still need a period in which you need to get adapted. So being capable of speaking with other students who actually speak the language, this will allow you to simply make a cultural exchange. Maybe they want to learn your language, right? So the point is, it is much easier to make a sense of that language and see how alive that language is, because when you read and learn a language from a book, it's a dead language, right? It won't change ever if you learn the same language from the same books. And I'm speaking, well, about any school in the whole world, right? Maybe they want to learn, I don't know, maybe they want to learn about, I don't know, how to create video games. Well, why not give them a chance to specialize in that? Maybe they also want to learn how to play chess in a professional way. Maybe they want to be sports people. Why not? It is the best moment in their life to start, because if you start at an early age, well, the early bird gets the worm. So, moving further, depending on what specialization or specializations the child will choose, all the progress they score in these 12 years, right? That should be taken into account objectively, because let's say they want to follow music specialization, but after 2 or 3 years they say, well, you know what, I don't like this anymore, I want to specialize in something else. Okay, take that into account and simply move further, right? They have done 3 years of music, they have done, I don't know, 2 years of this, 4 years of that, right? What if the child wants to become a politician? Well, I doubt you can start teaching someone at the age of 12 how to be a politician. But you can set up things in such a way that they, again, learn things on a curve, right? Slowly and surely, they learn the things needed, for example, to become a highly reputable senator, right? Or, well, anyone who takes part in politics, because politics is also important. But in doing so, people should learn that school has to be about practice. School has to be about movement, right? Not about sitting in a bench and being, drilled some things into your head. Because if you are to become a politician, you also have, for example, to be taken throughout the society, right? You have to have, this must be compulsive, right? It must be obligatory that every now and then you have, trips throughout the country. Because as a politician, you don't have to learn just the theory, just the basics, right? What you have to do, the law and the such. All these things can be learned throughout 12 years, but you also have to see the world, right? You have to see the people whom you're gonna serve. You have to realize that your function will more or less influence those people. You have to see what the working conditions of people are, because you're gonna represent them as a politician. You have to know what certain people do, right? Let's say tomorrow you will go to, I don't know, a factory, right? Or you will be going to a farm. You have to see what people do there, because you have to realize, not just learn mechanically certain things, because you're gonna end up just like a robot. You have to realize, what are the people doing, the people that you're gonna serve. You have to realize that politics is not about stealing money like we see it nowadays. It's about something that should be a highly vibrational function, right? Because you are gonna have the chance to be a highly influential person. You're gonna represent your country, and you have to understand that when you're on top, you also have to realize one other thing, right? When you're on top, you can actually be killed, right? People have to realize that, okay, each of their professions that they choose has their own risks, and people have to also be taught that at any moment, for whatever reason, due to technical difficulties, accidents, or I don't know, because you're a politician and someone doesn't like you, you can perish or be gravely injured. People have to realize these things, because if they don't realize them and accept these as something that can happen to them, right? Well, the problem is they will live in a fear of nothing, right? They will live in a fear of not understanding something, right? Because fear, everyone has to be taught that fear is something normal, right? Fear is not a weakness. This also has to be taught, for example, in military training, right? Because in military training, what I see things going on like is people are taught some protocols, how to do this, how to do that, how to act in this situation. That means acting more or less like a machine. Surely knowing your protocols is highly important, but you have to learn so many other things, right? When it comes to, full-fledged specialization, my schooling system will only handle that starting from the age of 20, because by then most of the sexual development, right, the hormonal development, most of it is left behind, right, because puberty by then should be well behind, right? So people can now finally start to think a bit more, emotionally mature. But they're not yet fully emotionally mature because they haven't reached their mid 20s. According to science, to psychology, psychiatry, and well, some sources that I have read, it is then when usually, well, it may be later, it may be earlier, but it is then when usually the emotional development within the brain, right, that specific side is fully developed. That is why you simply can't ever have, corporatist expectations. So many parents, they're worried that their children are not doing their homework, that, they're crunching them emotionally, that, they're gonna end up as a failure. Dude, they are 4 or 5 years of age. What the fuck you're expecting from them? If your parents were dumb enough to treat you like this, you shouldn't be stepping, after them, because you're gonna give birth to someone who's nothing else than a pure energy of life. But if you treat them badly, you're gonna make a corrupted energy of life. And look at society and how it has been for thousands of years. If this is the example that you want to perpetuate, well, perhaps you should be prohibited from voting or even some social activities, right? These are the people who may probably need some lockdown because broken goods are real in this society. And broken goods are very hard to fix. And they need a lot of resources to be fixed. And most likely they don't even want to be fixed. So in a healthy society, these individuals shouldn't be fully ignored, but they should be kept somewhat on a sideline because at any given moment they might become problematic to other people. And one thing that people don't need nowadays is even further abuse. When it comes to high specialization, right, what I call the higher specialization, this will start from the age of 20. And that is when I would say, for example, military specialization, right? From there on, whatever amount is needed of time, that has to be decided by certain people who are highly specialized on their field. That is why I say, if someone was to become specialized, for example, in medicine, right? It's usually 6 years in my country, and then, further specialization reaching around 10 years. So the first aspects, right, the things that you need to learn, the basics, the fundamentals, should always start from that age, because now you're finally more capable, right? You're the age of 20 now. Not earlier, because again, earlier means closer to those periods of puberty, because puberty triggers to each sex at different ages and can last longer or less, right? That is why the age of 20 or even 21 is a highly sacred age for me for certain situations. Starting with the age of 25, when usually the emotional aspect is fulfilled, the person can finally start to go through full-fledged professionalization, right? Finally, they can now be taught certain things, but teaching is not only important, practice also should be as important. But at the same time, what I call as a holy principle of teaching is realization, right? It's something which I call the means of realization. Because when you do this, the means of realization are this. If you want to follow, for example, military service, okay, what we see usually as soldiers is, well, the way I see it is more like how the West portrayed, the Red Army in World War II, right? A large mass of people who weren't given the best equipment possible. They were given some weapons, probably some of them not even functional, and, well, they were just prompted and ordered to simply charge headlessly, right? Mindlessly charge the enemy. This shouldn't be army, because as a soldier, you should realize what your purpose is, because your purpose is not necessarily to bear a weapon and simply kill the enemy. We have to do so strategically, because ultimately we have to accept it is the army. Sooner or later you will kill. So people have to be taught the importance of life. Because if you just go there and kill everyone, well, you're not gonna achieve much, right? If you go there on the front and just kill everyone, well, you're nothing else than a killing machine. You have to realize, again, as I said, that at any given moment, your profession can lead to your death or to very harmful injuries, right? Because that's how things are. So when it comes to such things, you have to realize, again, things. As part of military profession, right? As part of military training, you have to also go through trips throughout the country and see people working, right? You have to see how a gun that you're going to use is being built. Because if you learn how to assemble and disassemble a weapon, you're going to end up doing that mindlessly. But you have to realize the importance of each piece, how each of those pieces is created, right? Because people may know things about guns from video games, from movies. There's a lot of documentaries also out there. So the knowledge may actually exist in someone's mind, but the realization most likely is not. Because if you take it at the most superficial level, that of video games and movies, well, a gun is nothing else than an exterior, right? That which you see at it, and obviously the bullet you put in, and obviously the trigger that you pull, right? But people have to realize the importance, right? What is the importance of that gun? Why you are using it? You have to see the people who are working so that you as a soldier can do what you can, right? You have to see the people who are working and building your guns, your aircrafts, your tanks, how the tank is built, what is the relationship between each of the pieces, right? You have to also learn how to repair those pieces if you are going to use such vehicles, because you might actually need such knowledge, right? And starting from the age of 20, take, the schooling system will take as much as needed, to teach people. But only after the age of 26 can, for example, people following military service take part in external missions, because then they are finally more capable, they are finally more emotionally active, right? They are finally knowledgeable, right, of their emotions. They are, their emotional side is fully built, so they can finally start maturing from an emotional state. At the same time, another core aspect of schooling systems is to teach children and the future people constantly how to keep a connection to the divine, to the importance of life, and again, how to learn to transcend, at least on a minimalistic level, their basic impulses. Because vengeance, anger, these things shouldn't exist, especially in professions that will have a great influence on others, like for example military, or for example medicine, or for example politics, because politics, everything is political more or less. So if all the frustrated people end up in here, you'll have a crazy society like we live in already. So you don't need that. You need people to see how everyone is working in society, what their working conditions are. Because if you just stay with your butt on a chair, right, you simply won't achieve anything. You have to know the people, right? You have to speak to the people. You have to learn how to become a public speaker. You have to see how people are working, in what conditions they are working in X factory and Y factory, right? Even as a soldier, you have to go through multiple factories to see how your bullets are being built, how the explosive is put into those if they have them, what types of ammunition is built here, how it is built, what types of weapons you will use, how they are built. You have to learn from certain people. You have to make things be enjoyable, right? Because you have to teach people the realization of death. So the point is, if you're a soldier and you go on missions, you'll most likely die or be greatly injured or be captured. These things have to be taught to people, because they have to realize this, not just know them like a machine does. Because if you learn things like a machine, you're gonna be nothing else than a machine, most likely a social failure. So starting from the age of 30, this is, or 26 depending on, non-military specializations, that is when 26 and 30, that is when I feel that people can finally act, from a professional specialization, from a professional standpoint. Because starting from the age of 24 to 30, and obviously 2021 to 30, you have plenty of time to learn and realize all the core aspects of your thing, right? Of that which you want to learn. Because once you are capable of learning this, once you know these, once you have realized this, as a soldier, you'll no longer go there to simply kill the enemy. Because if you give in to anger, it will control you and you won't act correctly. You might end up in situations in which you're surrounded by the enemies and you may not survive. If you give in to fear or anger, you'll simply die stupidly. What is the very last thing that you can still do there to inflict the enemy some damage, right? Because if you are to be captured, most likely you'll be executed. You have to constantly realize such things, because in any field that you have, be it politics, be it the military, even in scientific research, there are cases that can lead to great injury or to death. You have to be taught this, and you have to live with the realization that those things can actually exist, and not live with a stupid fear towards them, but with that being a possible reality. But you can also do whatever possible. If you are taught correctly, you can do whatever possible to ensure that such things do not happen. Because if you do things like a machine, well, you'll fail like a machine. Because you'll only be good at doing certain things, but you do not know the realization, right? You do not know why you're doing those. You do not know the relationship between those, right? And why you're doing this and why you shouldn't. Or why you can also come up with your own ideas, right? So, constantly teaching people about their spirituality, their psychology, reminding them that there are different dimensions to life. This is how a schooling system should function. Well, I don't want to make this video too long, right? I can make another video with even more details, but, well, for now I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. You are appreciated. Well, take care. Become more introspective, and you will see that things within you will start unfolding if you allow these to. Happy holidays, why not? It's almost Christmas. You are appreciated. Keep fighting for your own freedoms. Take care. Ferenc Board signing out.